in the Daf of Bava Basra, up from the bottom, about 20 lines at the two dots. So we said, Akol Lasuye Mai, because the Mishnah told us, Akol Kiminag Medina, and the Gemara asks, Akol Lasuye Mai, what do we come to include by the word Akol? The Gemara answers, Lasuye Asra de Nehige Behutsa Vidafna, where their minhag is, they have a minhag of also very thin, a very thin fence made out of pole. Hutsa is like palm leaves, and Daphna is like leaves from a chestnut tree. Rashi said. In the down the narrow lines of Rashi, down about 25 lines, Daphna, Anfe Eitz Arumim, Armunim, Shekairin Lur, Aprishalo Kairin Vaish. So they make a thin fence out of that. If that's the minhag, then that's what, then also that they would have to build. Vichach, the Mishnah then said, because we know that they both have to split the building of this wall, then if it will fall down, we know that half the rocks are each of theirs and half of the space where the wall was, that the space will be both of theirs also. Shel Shneim is going to be a both of theirs. Once it's Pshita, obviously, it's Pshita. Because even if we hadn't learned this din, if we see now that the rocks are strewn all over the both Chetzeros, and we don't know whose they are, we'll end up splitting them, even without the din of the Mishnah. One says, "Look, we needed to learn it. Because the rocks fell in the shoes of one of theirs, and therefore now we don't know, because we might think that a person where they're not found in his rishus, that he would be the moisi, and he would have to bring a raya in order to take the rocks to himself. But we learn not like that. Therefore, Kamash Malam, we would be learning in the Mishnah that because we knew that they had to build them together originally, that even if all of the rocks will be in one person's rishus, we will still understand that half of the rocks are each person has half the rocks. Or another answer is inami defninu chad l'rishus didei, that one person took them out and put them all into his rishus. You might have thought that in fact that they're all sitting in one person's rishus, that makes the other person the motzi. That he doesn't have to bring the raya, and we split them evenly because we knew this din of our Mishnah that they both built it together on each of their lands. More then said, "V'chein begina, makam shenoigu." We had just finished speaking about how the kol minhag Medina, that wherever they build different types of walls, that's the wall that they have to build. And we said v'chein begina. And then we said makam shenoigu ligdor, where there is a minhag to build a wall in a gina, because it's not the same situation as a chutzah where people watch each other, limit each person's tashmish. There might be an Indian of ayin hara, not to look at the field of the other person, but there's not the Indian of limiting the tashmish of the other person's chutzah, because nobody does anything in a gina. Chen begina, so too. And then they say that makam shenoigu ligdor mechayivin oiso, in a place where they will put up a wall anyway in a gina. So then they have to put up a wall between the two ginot. Ha gufa kasha, that on the seif of the Mishnah we're going to have a kasha. Ha gufa kasha. Amrat, you said the chain, so too the din will be the gina, which is a makam shenoigu ligdor. We said chain gina makam shenoigu ligdor, wherever it's the minhag to put up a wall, you'll have to put up a wall. Chayivin. Also, so we can be medayek from that if there's no minhag in this place to put up a wall between the ginot, that you won't be able to mechayev. One will not be able to mechayev the other in that place. Ha stama, meaning if there's no minhag, ein mechayevin also, then you wouldn't be able to put up. One would not be able to be mechayev the other. And then that's what's mashma from that. And we had a kasha on the stira from the sefer. It says the aim of sefer. If you look at the sefer, it says Abal Bika, which is the valley, which is where they have the tavua, the field, stay levan. While Bika Makam, it says Shenoigu Shalo Ligdor, where the minhag is not to put up any fence in the bikot, out in the open fields where they grow the tavua produce. So then, when there's no minhag, then one cannot be mechayev the other, a mechayevin also. And from that, we would make a diuk that if there is no minhag not to make a wall, so then you would be able to mechayev. One would be able to mechayev in a bika, and that's kasha, because if we're seeing from a gina, which is hastam, a mechayevin also. So the problem is that hashta stam gina. We learned that a stam gina, if there is no minhag to put up a wall between the gardens, then we learn that you cannot put a mechayev, one cannot mechayev the other. Only when there's a minhag, we said when there's a minhag to put up a wall, then you can mechayev the other. Mashma that if there's no minhag, you can't, one cannot mechayev the other one to put up the wall. Amat lo, then a stam gina you wouldn't be able to mechayev. And then you told us that a stam bika, whether you do not have the minhag not to put up a wall, that you would be able to be mechayev. Stam bika miboya, you wouldn't even have had to tell us the din by a stam bika, that we would understand pashut that if by a gina that there's there's no minhag to put up, that you would not have to put up a wall. So for sure, bika way out in the fields, if there was stam, there was no minhag not to put up a wall or any minhag, we would know that you can't force, one cannot force the other person to put up a wall out in the bika. What's the kol shechen? Because in the gina there's more hezekriya in the gina, because it's the whole year around, a whole year they have produce in the gina, whereas the fields out in the bika they only have during certain seasons. So there's less ayin har. So if there's no chiyuv, one cannot force the other to put up a wall between gardens, ginot. So for sure, when it's a case of stam, when they don't have any minhag to put up a wall. So then for sure in a bika, if there's no minhag, then they should also not have to put up the wall. Why would we be learning it? That's the kasha. Omar Abaye, this is what we therefore meant. Havi Kamar in the Mishnah. It says v'chein stam gina, because when we said v'chein gina, we have learned that what we meant was v'chein in a stam gina, where there's no minhag to put up a wall or not to put up a wall. Stam gina, v'chein v'stam gina, and also, which there is more einar, and ubimakom shenoiguligo, and bebika, and in a place where they have a minhag to put up a wall in the outskirts, the outer fields, which usually have less ayin hara. So then, in those two types of cases, a gina stam or out in the fields where they have the minhag to put up a wall, then mechayiv, and also then there is a chiyuv. That's the way we'll have to learn our Mishnah. Amalei Rava in Cain. So then we bother, because the next verse you were saying that, or a stam gina, or a bika where there's a minhag to put up a wall. But the next part of the Mishnah says aval, but begina and makam that they don't have a minhag to put up a wall, then you don't have to be mechayev. You can't be mechayev. So the aval is mashma that the first part of the Mishnah where we spoke about begina was not also referring to bika. That's what Omar le Ravo in Cain my aval. So what is the aval, which is just come before, which is mashma that the first part of the sentence was not referring to bika in any way. And Omar Ravo, therefore, we have to learn the Mishnah this way. Hachiktani v'chein stam gina, where you have no minhagim, is like a makam that they have a minhag to make a wall. Kim makam shenaygu ligdor dami. every Stam Gina will be like a place where they have a minhag to put up a wall, and they'll have to, and therefore, even a Stam Gina, just like a place where they have a minhag to put up a wall, there'll be a chiyuv to put up a wall. But a Stam Bika, which will be like a place where they don't have, where they have a minhag not to put up a wall. About Stam Bika, Kimakam Shalona Igu, Dami. Stam Bika, the faraway fields, that's like a place where they don't, where they are not knowing to put up a wall. Ein Machayivin Oiso. That's the way we would learn our Mishnah. So it comes out that Chen Legina means, according to Rava, that Gina, you would have to put up a chiyuv to put up a wall, even if they don't have any minhagim about the Gina, because a Gina Stam is just like a place where they have a minhag to put up walls between the two people. Have a minhag to put up walls between themselves. And a Bika, well, even if there is a Bika Stam, there's no chiyuv to put up. One cannot force the other person to put up a wall between fields, stay lavan, wheat fields, or other crop fields. Like the Mishnah said, Ela im rotza, but we said if they want to, out in the Bika where there's no chiyuv to put up a wall, but if they want to, or right, but if they want to, where there's no chiyuv, when one cannot force the other person, but if one of the persons wants to have this wall, he should therefore build all within his own property. And therefore he has the wall standing in his property, and now he should put demarcate the wall so that if it falls down, it'll be known whose property was on, that it was complete, and that the other person will not try to claim half of that half of the thickness of the wall space on the land of the land. So the more asks, what is a chazis? My chazis. Omar Rav Huna, achfaya lekarno levar. A chazis is when you have the top of the wall juts out and like is wider than the rest of the wall. The top of the wall has a more thickness to it, but the more thickness goes towards the outside of the wall. You add thickness at the top going towards the outside. And that'll show that the person, if it has one of those protrusions going towards the outside, that'll show that the person who built the wall, it was complete. The person on the other side of that protrusion was the one who built the wall all by himself. The more it says, V'nabid milgaib. Why are they putting the protrusion on the outside of the wall? You could just put it on the inside of the wall, and that would show that it was his wall. That on the inside, if the protrusion is on the inside, then we know that the one who is living on that, whose field is on the inside of that protrusion, he built the wall completely in his rishus. V'nabid milgaib. The one says we don't want to do that, because if they would do that, then Ovid Chavre, the person on the other side, would build one, would stick on a protrusion on his side, and he would say that they both built it together. Chavre Nami Milvar, because the other person would Avid Chavre Nami Milvar, the other person would come and make a protrusion on the top of the wall, which would be on the outside from the person who originally built it, Milvar. And he would say that the wall was originally built by both of them, and they would end up taking the rocks and half of the width of the where the wall was standing of the land. Omar Didi. Who? One says, once you say like that, you could just say that if you're already high people. So you could be choshesh for the fact that if the way we're telling you to do it, to put the protrusion on the outside of the wall, that could also lead to problems. The person who's living on the other side, who owns the field on the other side, could cut off the protrusion and say that they both built a wall. He could cut off that protrusion, and you could claim that the wall was originally built by both of them. So you see, we have the same problem, even if we're putting the protrusion, the chazis, on the outside of the wall. The more answers, no, that won't be a problem. If somebody cut it off, we would be able to find that it was cut off, and we would know that it was really there. Because what he's suggesting is that he'll cut it off, and then the wall will have no chazis, and he'll claim that they built it together, and then neither of them put a chazis on their side. Some learn it the opposite way. Ikeda Amre Omar Rav Huna Ichfa. They learn it the opposite. The Kana Le Milva. Ichfa. The Kana Milgab. That the chazis is on the inside. And they asked, the Brisa asked, well, why are you putting it on the inside? Let's put it. It should be. Why can't you just put it up? Why shouldn't it be on the outside? Na'abid milva. Let them put it on the outside. And the answer, we don't want to put on the outside because the person whose field is on the outside might cut it off. Gayizle chavre v'omer didehu, and he'll claim that the wall has no chazis on either side, and he'll claim that it was built by both of them. Gemara said, once you're worried about Ramoyim like that they'll do damage, so you could be worried that he'll just add, like we said before, he'll add a protrusion on his side, and then he'll in that way claim that they both built it. He'll add on a piece at the top, and he'll say that they both built it, and that was his chazi. When it says that, we're not worried about it. We're not worried about it. We'll see that if it was stuck on, we'll be able to tell that it was an afterthought. It wasn't originally built like that. And the Gemara says, how can you even think that we should have the chazis on the inside? The Mishnah itself tells us that on that base Amud Aleph, told us that if he wants to anyway to build in a beacon where there's no chiyuv to build a wall, but one does want, he should put a chazis. What does it say in the Mishnah? It says from the bottom of the Amud up about 5 lines. If they both want, or no, up from the bottom about 8 lines. If the person in a case where they're a place where there's no chiyuv to force the other one to build with him, he should put the wall completely in his rishus, and build it. So we see that the chazis, the Mishnah tells us the chazis has to be on the outside. How can we have a brisa which suggests to be on the outside? Kasha, it's a kasha. They have different terutzim of what do we mean by bechutz. Maybe bechutz means just outside. Just different ways of touching it up that it can still work with the Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan has another mahalach in chazis, which seems to be similar to one that we mentioned at first. Rabbi Yochanan Omar Nasaya be on the top of the wall from the in Amma's worth, on the top of the wall, and you have it jutting out to the outside. Yeah. We don't want it on the inside because then maybe the person on the other side of the wall want to stick on an extra piece on his side, and he'll claim the whole wall was both of theirs. Abid Chabre Milvar, which is on the outside of the person who built it, but it's really he would claim it's on his inside. For Ramayim like this, that they'll be sticking in Hashta Nami, that you are requiring the piece to be sticking out on the outside. So we have the same problem. He can just peel it off. The dikfil, he can just peel it right off. Mak peel and say that he helped build it. Machfile Chavre V'Omar Didibidi Dehu. One says, well, that we're not worried about. Peeling off, we'll notice. Kilufa, to peel it off, it was peeled off. Made the Yoda, then we would know about it. So that's the Rabbi Yochanan. And he also holds the Chazis has to be on the outside. And we said the palm leaves, to make a fence out of flimsy leaves, palm leaves and other sticks and canes. Omar Rav Nachman Sinufe. How do we make the chazis when we're making the fence out of hutzah, which is like flimsy and weak? How do we know who built the wall if he built it by himself? So the more answers, as we make a chazis by bending down the top of the palm leaves, bending it away. Omar Nachman Sinufe. Yariche, we bend them over towards the outside, milvar, towards the outside. But the more, why do you bend them towards the outside? Why don't you bend them towards the inside? Abed milgai, put them towards the inside. The more answers, we don't want them towards the inside because the other person on the other side will bend them, I guess in some way, bend them towards him. Ovid nami chabre milvar, on the outside, he'll bend them towards himself. The Omar Didibidi, and he'll claim somehow it was built by both of them. I don't know what he gains because it doesn't take up much land space anyway, and also the maybe they're not as valuable as rocks. But he could do that. With Iachi, if we're worried about him bending it towards himself, he could do another thing. Iachi, hashtanami gayis v'shadi le. Towards him, he could just cut them off and have the dafna go on it, and then their claim that they both built it together. More answers, they can't do that because when they bend it over, they put cement over the palm leaves and they stiffen it up. Mashrik leitina. More says, well, if you put cement on the palm leaves, hashtanami asi chare b'kolifle kolifle. You can just peel off the cement and then cut the leaves. So when it says we're not worried about him peeling up cement, we would notice that. Kilufa made the yode. We would notice that. But Baye says that when you're dealing with these thin walls, these very weak walls, by Omar Hutza, if they would build a wall out of Hutza, there's no way that you can prevent and to know really from a physical simon who really built it. Hutza leis to kanta elabishtar. The only way of knowing who built it, if both of them built it together or if one built it by himself, is if there's a star written up. Because otherwise, they're too weak and no simon will really hold, will be verifiable.